Hi there and welcome back to JetboxTV. Today we're going to talk about how pilots understand and interpret weather. We're not going to look at long-range forecasts, we're going to look at weather that actually occurs on the day or within 24 hours. And so what we're going to do is we're going to decode METARs and TAFs. And if you've never seen them before, it looks like loads of strings from the matrix and sequences of numbers that are drifting down behind us and make no sense whatsoever. But actually, to a trained pilot, these interpretations that we make from the forecasts and the actual reports that are given are quite critical to what we're going to do and how we're going to fly on the day. And so I use a couple of platforms, one in particular that gives me both METARs and TAFs. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at those and we're going to break them down today. Now, just to give you a quick representation, if I have a quick look on SkyDemon, which is one of the products that I will use for flying, you can see here straight away that there's lots of green dots dotted all over the United Kingdom. And those green dots present to me that we've got reasonable flying conditions, what we would call VFR or VMC conditions. I also use ForeFlight. And again, you can see utilising ForeFlight here that dotted over the country, we should be getting exactly the same weather conditions, and the green represents good flying conditions, VFR or VMC. Blue in this instance, which I'm scaling into now, would represent marginal conditions. Let me see if I can find a red one somewhere, which would represent IFR. Actually, there's nothing red at the moment, but what we have got is an even worse colour. So if you see, if we zoom into Cork here, we're looking at low IFR conditions. And we're going to talk about a little bit about what those are later on. Actually, just focusing on the weather, I use an application called AeroWeather. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to break down exactly what I am seeing here. So we've got Manchester Airport, and you can just see a whole load of code, a whole string of code here, which says METAR, EGCC, 181220Z, 13005KT, 070V190, 9999, FEW 034, BKN 042, 12/07, Q1022. And then underneath that, we have something called a TAF. And you can see a whole string of text there. Some of it similar to the above, some of it very different. Now I can read that as if it was plain English to me, but I'm going to break that down in sections for you. The first thing to understand is there are two types of report there. The METAR is a meteorological actual report, and it represents the weather at a given location, typically an airfield, at the particular time it was taken. So in this respect, it was taken at 1:20 local time. And I'll tell you how we work that out in a moment. The section below is a TAF, a terminal area forecast. And that is a forecast for a particular date and period of time, and a forecast of what the weather is likely to do during that period of time. So if we break it down into sections as follows. The first one, METAR, Meteorological Actual Report. EGCC, that's the ICAO code for Manchester Airport. Then we've got 18, 12, 20, and Z or Zulu. And what that's telling me is the first two digits is telling me the date. It's taken on the 18th of this particular month at 12:20 Zulu. So as you'll see in the figure above, or in the notation above, that's 1:20 local time. All forecasts and meteorological reports are done in Zulu or UTC. The next section is representing the wind. And what that's telling me is 130, the wind is coming from 130 degrees at 5 knots. The next section is telling me that it's varying. The wind is varying in direction between 070, the V represents varying, 190. So we've got a wind that is moving around between 070 and 190 degrees. The 9999, often referred to as all the nines, represents the horizontal distance in meters of the visibility. It doesn't give a figure if it's beyond 10 kilometers. So all the nines is a representation to say that we've got a visibility, horizontal visibility of 10 kilometers or more, which represents typically 6 statute miles. Next sections relate to cloud. We've got FEW, cloud at 034, and that is telling me that we've got a cloud at 3,400 feet. So few cloud at 3,400 feet. BKN is broken cloud at 4,200 feet. And then the next two sections is 12/07. So the outside temperature is 12. The dew point is 7. So if the temperature were to drop down from 12 to 7, we might see some form of precipitation or even fog at that point. And then Q1022 is telling me that the barometric pressure, or the QNH, is 1022. Now, I'm going to go back to the cloud section very briefly and talk about the different cloud coverage that is represented. We have 4 different states, which is few, scattered, broken, overcast. Few is representing 1 to 2 octas, octas being an eighth of the sky. We then have scattered, which is 3 to 4 octas. We then have broken, which is 5 to 7 octas, or 5 to 7 eighths. And then we have OVC, which is overcast, which is the full sky is overcast 8/8 at a particular height. So going from left to right now, I can see that on the 18th at 12:20 Zulu, the weather at Manchester Airport was 130 at 5 knots, varying from 070 to 190. Good visibility represented by all the nines. Few cloud at 3,400, broken cloud at 4,200, temperature +12, dew point +7 with a QNH of 1022. That's a meteorological actual report and will be valid for typically 30 minutes. Moving on to the terminal area forecast below, this is a little bit more detailed. And one rule of thumb that we have is that the longer the information contained within that section, not say the worse the weather is going to be, but we're going to have varying weather conditions, not likely to be great. Should we consider flying in VFR conditions? So it might rule out the helicopter or light aircraft on a local flight, but it doesn't always do that. But the longer it is, the more consideration that we've got. And so let's just break this down again here. So TAF for TAF is Terminal Area Forecast, Echo Golf Charlie Charlie, so that's Manchester, taken on the 18th at 10:55 Zulu. Next section, which says 1812/1918, is telling me that that is valid on the 18th of October from 12 o'clock UTC to the 19th of October at 1800 hours, so it's 6 o'clock. So it looks like that's a 30-hour terminal area forecast. 150 at 8 knots, so the wind is coming typically from 150 at 8 knots. All the nines, so good visibility. Scattered cloud at 3,500 feet. Okay, so that's the predominance of the forecast for that period of time. But then we have sections below it, and these are the variations that may occur during that period. So we now have a tempo, which basically means that the weather in the period of time which is referred to afterwards. Tempo means a period of time of up to 1 hour. Within that period, we will have 8,000 meters of visibility and light rain, the minus representing light and the RA representing rain. So to recap on that, temporarily on the 18th between 2100 hours and on the 19th at 600 hours, visibility might reduce for periods of up to 1 hour to 8,000 meters in light rain. We then have a next section, Prob 30. 30% probability of the following weather situations happening. Another tempo, so 30% probability for temporary periods of up to 1 hour on the 18th between 2100 hours and the 19th 600 hours. The wind will be 160, 15 gusting at 25 knots. So the G there representing gusting and the KT representing knots. Furthermore, for periods of up to 1 hour between the 19th at 6 o'clock in the morning, but on the 19th to 4 o'clock in the afternoon, the wind will be 160 at 15, gusting 27 knots. And then a further temporary period on the 19th between 9 o'clock in the morning and 6 o'clock in the evening, 8,000 metres in light rain, the minus representing light, a plus would represent heavy, and RA for rain. We then have a further situation that temporarily for up to periods of 1 hour on the 19th between 10 o'clock in the morning and 6 o'clock in the evening, 4,000 metres of rain, rain and drizzle, broken cloud at 1,400 feet. And so that's telling me that today we've really got pretty decent weather conditions, but tomorrow not necessarily so great. Now, you might also wonder what the colour coordinated items are, or so the colour coded references are. And this is a colour scheme from an American weather forecasting model called NOAA, where green is good conditions, blue is marginal conditions, red is poor conditions, instrument meteorological conditions, and anything in purple, that's low IFR conditions. Okay, so not particularly great. Okay, so I'm just going to talk about those differences between VFR, MVFR, which is marginal visual flight rules, IFR and low IFR. And the boundaries or parameters for these have been set by NOAA, which is an American weather model. So visual flight rules would suggest that it's good conditions, and typically we'll have a cloud ceiling of 3,000 foot above ground level or greater, with visibility greater than 5 statute miles, which represents about 8,000 metres. Marginal VFR, still legal to fly under visual flight rules. Weather conditions could be a little bit degraded. The ceiling, a cloud ceiling of between 1,000 and 3,000 foot above ground level, with a visibility of between 3 to 5 statute miles. We then move on to the red conditions, which are IFR. That will be a cloud base of between 500 and 1,000 foot above ground level, with visibility of between 1 and 3 miles. And then we move on to the pink condition, which is low instrument flight rules, typically with a cloud ceiling of less than 500 feet above ground level and a visibility of less than 1 statute miles. Now, if you're interested in what the abbreviations mean, I will put a link to the UK Met Office, which will show you the explanations for terminology that we use in both the METARs and the TAFs, and that should give you a great idea as to how to interpret the METARs and the TAFs going forward. I use AeroWeather as my primary tool. It's available on both the iPad and the iPhone. I refer to it religiously every single day, and I highly recommend it. Anyway, I hope you found this video useful. If you have, give me a like, give me a subscribe, put a comment in the comment section below, and tell me if there's anything else you'd like me to do a video on. Thanks for being here. Thanks for watching.